Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? The says, can you hear me? All right, we got some more questions. That's good. Kelly, usually I just keep the thing off until it's on the television show, which is in about 7 minutes. Wait, I got to get Steve's question first. What motivates you to keep? That was a good one. They're all good ones. On a bad day. Great question. So we got Kelly, Jeff, Steve. What do we got else? We got Steve. We got Robert coming up. Hi Danielle, how you doing? Just taking questions here right now, getting ready till we are on. How do you decide what guitar or lap side to use when you write, and how do you decide what tuning to use? What song keys do you play in open G and open D? Sure, that's a good three-part question, Robert. How do you decide what instrument to write on? How do you decide what tuning to use? And then, song keys do you play in G or open D? That's a great question. Song keys in G or open D. Okay. And Ted, favorite rock opera? All right. Also, do want to say thank you everybody for the tips. Last week was an incredibly awesome week, but I only made $10 in tips. So either follow me on Patreon. I can say all this stuff before we get on to the television show. Follow me on Patreon. You see the tip information. I'll give it to you right here. I would love to keep the show going. And so if you want, they're all here. Oh, nope, that's the wrong one. Do that one. Thank you so much. I'll get rid of that in just a minute. Favorite alternate tuning and why? That's a good question. Got the Robert question. Got that. Oh, Kelly's got one more. Have an idea for songwriting. Thought I might share. Not really a question. I thought about how fiction books are particularly good. That's great. That's great. Yeah, Kelly, I would say that's just pretty much awesome. A lot of people will take like a movie title and then write a song, or take a song title and turn it into a movie, or take a book and just take a chapter, write about a character. I think everything's fair game. So I encourage you to do that for sure. For sure, for sure, for sure. All right, one more minute, everybody. So we'll get some more questions as we're going along. And I'm going to play you something new as we're coming in from my new album. Are we saying There's no audio. Welcome, everybody. Let me know if you can hear the audio now. I see it showing up on my screen. Please let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? All right, it's on now. Welcome, everybody. Don't stop now. Keep moving your feet. Keep on pushing. There's no retreat. People get ready. The time is tight. I won't retreat. Like this fine. If I'm walking, you better believe I'm singing to a solid rhyme. I'm still clinging. Voices in my head, a magnificent pops. I'm in the army of love. Can we take it to the top? Oh, singing, don't stop now. Keep moving your feet. Keep on pushing. There's no retreat. People get ready. The time is tight. I won't retreat. The righteous fight. And like I said, that's a new song from Patreon that I co-wrote with my good friend Scrappy Judd Newcomb. Welcome, everybody, to 20 Question Tuesdays. Not 21, but 20 Question Tuesdays, where we all get together and we talk music for a bit. And I sure appreciate all of you. I've got all my chats here from all of the different services that we are doing, but we are on Austin Music Television right now as well, if you want to tune in there. Or on their Facebook page. And of course you see all this stuff down here that helps me do what I do. Let's start with some cool questions this week. I hope everybody's having a decent week and taking care of each other and staying healthy. I know a lot of people are going back inside right now, and so the live stream that I did last night was a lot more populated because a lot of people are going on lockdown again. I just want to say, wear your mask, take care of each other, be good to those frontline workers, and just take care of each other, and please, please, please stay healthy. We've got some great questions. Hello there, Hillary. Hello, Larry. Thanks for saying that. Sorry, Jeff. I don't know what happened when I turned that off. The sound went away for a minute. Technical difficulties. Let's get to some of these questions right off the bat. I believe Kelly was first. And Kelly was talking about, like, if you got a bossa nova rhythm, right? 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and... Now, I don't know if that's bossa nova or not, but I like the way you're describing it, because you're asking, how do you describe this beat to others? And what you did was you said bum ba bum, bum ba ba, ba bum ba bum. And then you wrote out 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. So that to me sounds like 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. Maybe a... Of course, you might swing it a certain way. These are good ways to describe. Anything that you do that subdivides the beat is a great way to describe it to your band if they're having trouble just hearing it from what you're playing. Subdividing the beat and saying 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. Absolutely spot on, great way to communicate with people. I remember listening to a lot of bossa nova stuff. You should check out Antonio Carlos Jobim. There is a really, really great album. I'm going to put this down for everybody. Antonio Carlos, if you like bossa nova, Jobim. There's a solo album that he did that is called Live in Montreux. And I'll tell you what, You don't need to know Brazilian music, and you don't need to know Portuguese to say this is some of the prettiest music you ever heard in your life. Classical guitar, all right hand, all rhythm, just... Of course, Girl from Ipanema, right? And I remember trying to put that into a song that I was working on. Luckily, long, long, long time ago, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, and it was like... You get the idea, right? We could take our influences and come up with something, and who knows? I was a really, really big fan of how he played guitar, and I was learning a bunch of songs with like real books and stuff like that. And all the jazzers would just have like a little bit of part of their memory, especially in college, where they really, really loved bossa novas. And whether you're a tenor sax player or a piano player or whatever, what was really cool is the guitar players would never really take solos. The instrument was really, really used primarily for rhythm. Yeah, I never did put that song out. Who knows? Maybe I'll put that out on Patreon next month, just for you, Kelly. But I think when you have influences like that, my suggestion is go for it. Hey, also, I'm thinking a lot about maybe inviting somebody to be this wonderful app that I'm using. May let me have a guest now, so I'm thinking maybe next week I might have a guest. I'm thinking about asking my buddy Michael O'Connor, not to put him on the spot, but I think he'd be a good first thing. We could split the screen and we could all ask some questions to me and Michael and have a little bit more of a dialogue during this. I don't know if I'll do that every week, but maybe next week. And so if you have some people, if you want to put in the comments, no matter what you're watching on, in the comments or in the chat, if you want to put somebody that you'd be interested in having on this show with me, maybe somebody you know I know, put it in there, and I'll look through the comments later. Kelly, I hope that answered your first question pretty decent. So. Please feel free to let me know. All right, next question. Ooh, Jeff. Jeff, are you there? Oh, hi, Kate. How you doing? Nice to see you. Glad you're here. MOC is a good possibility for sure. All right, Larry. I'll put you down for the second vote for Michael O'Connor. Okay, so Kelly's good on that. Kate's here. Jeff says, what is your favorite alternate tuning and why? Now, Jeff, if you are here and you don't mind chiming in right now, I would love to know if we're talking about guitar or if we're talking about lap steel. Uh-oh, might have to do this without a tuner. Okay, so Jeff's here. You talking about guitar or are you talking about lap steel for our alternate tunings? Since you're right there. I really love a lot of tunings, alternate for guitar, two of which I really, okay, for guitar, two tunings that I really love for guitar, I don't know if they're my favorites, but they're kind of the go-tos, are the exact same tunings that I use for most of the stuff, and that'll tie into my next question, that I play on lap. One is open D and one is open G. Now, when I really started to get my fingers around a G for guitar, a lot of people were using it to play slide, but I was playing guitar for a guy named Willis Allen Ramsey. And for those of you who aren't familiar, this tuning, this will be a little technical for the non-guitar pickers, but we jump around from subject to subject here, and I promise it'll be interesting nonetheless. One of the greatest guitar players I know for rhythm and using alternate tunings is Willis Allen Ramsey. And he, let me get that thing off the screen. It's been on there forever. I'll put it back up in a little while. Where is it? There you go. That's better. You can see my guitar a little better. Willis is really, really, really great with alternate tuning. So this D from the low string, D, G, D, G, B, D. When I really started to feel like I was getting my fingers around this tuning, I learned this tune from Willis from watching him every night, and it was a solo tune that he would play by himself, and he would just kick the microphone stand like a little porch board and go boom, boom. You can hear it on the recording if you listen to his album. Wish I was a millionaire. I play rock music and grow long hair. I tell you, boys, I buy a new Rolls Royce. So many great chords right just in the opening of that, and none of it is really, really technically super, super difficult. You got something that looks like the top of a C chord. As if you're making a C chord, but you don't even have that finger. Right? And then the way you would make a D chord. Go back and watch this later. There's your D kind of 7. That's the Willis Allen Ramsey song. And it's from his one album that he made in 1973 called Sad Sheets. It was covered by Shawn Colvin. She did an amazing job of that song. I like playing it just every once in a while, like because I'm one of the few people who gets his 3-finger style of playing like with steel guitar stuff. What's great about Willis's guitar playing and lends itself so cool to those alternate tunings is that you can go from strumming to picking super, super easily. That's a pretty percussive, strummy sound, right? So when I started playing with Willis, I started getting into alternate tunings and went down the rabbit hole, and now my audiences and you here on television have to listen to me tune during shows, which is not fun. You got to learn to talk more, and you got to learn to tell really bad tuning jokes, and unfortunately, that's what happens when you start going down the rabbit hole with alternate tunings. So, Jeff, I really, really love Open G for this reason. You know, I mean, it's easy to go. You just do your 1, 4, and 5 chord, but so little finger movement, lots of picking, and I'm able to do so much just in the beginning of that one song. It taught me so much about this tuning. 1, 5, 7, 1. Oh, Johannes, I will go back to this tuning joke just for you, my friend. Because I've got one. What's your favorite tuning joke, Johannes? Tuning joke. I'll tell you at the end of this. Okay, so first of all, there's that for guitar. Really, really great. There are some other really, really incredible cats that, one of the first tunings that I wrote in was Open D. I had learned from a guy named Ellis Paul. We had written this song together. And he was up in the front seat of this van, and we were driving around. And so it's D, A, D, F sharp. Sort of. F sharp. A, D. So Ellis Paul is sitting in the front of this van. He's got this little parlor guitar, and he's going... you wrote a song in the van, and it was like, if I had just one chance to say, I would find the words you would not cast away, because you kicked them out to the cold like a lie you just been told, when all I said was, can I look away? Now that's a common thing that you can do that's really, really, really fun. I see Eliza Gilkyson doing this a lot when she's in an alternate tuning. She uses C tuning a lot, which is deeper and really, really kind of heavier. But you kind of bar the fifths across the lowest string, and then you can get, by just playing the two open strings in D tuning, all these other chords that are sussy and fun and just like... My personal easy way of doing that has always been to just bend the little double joint on my knuckle and do it with a second finger, because I'm also have these other fingers ready. And I loved using that tuning for this song. If I was a stranger, would you believe? Would you take the truth from me? I'd show you, but you won't see it. And there, I just add a finger right here to make it a minor chord instead. It just has a little bit of those top strings ringing on the top again. I'm mystified, you deny the truth from me. Exactly, it's like so much available to you in D tuning. It's also so great for the slide playing as well. I would say if you're getting into alternate tunings, open G, open D, great places to start. You just start laying your fingers down and boom, you've got all sorts of really, really, really great stuff happening. That song is called Mystified. It's from my album, The Speed of Hope, which you can find at all the places. So, Jeff, you know, I don't know if those are my favorite. I also really, really do love C tuning, which I'll just take a second and play for you, because I remember, it's going to be wobbly. This tuning really reminds me of like an Ani DeFranco or a Joni Mitchell kind of tuning. Something about it that's just really a lot of repeated notes on the bottom. Ray Wiley's used this tuning a few times too on songs. I think that Eliza Gilkyson used this tuning on, Open C is really great, right? C, G, C, G, C, and then a high E. Woo! That's it. I remember this really couple of great tunes from Eliza Gilkyson many long years ago. Woo! Almost there, everybody. Wobbles the strings when you go down this low, too. That's one that I just love by Eliza. I think that's called Highway 9. She also did a song called Tender Mercies. Quite the guitar picker, quite the self-accompanist for all you people out there. Eliza Gilkison. Like I say, Ray Wiley used this tuning on Purgatory Road, which is a really, really beautiful song. Welcome, Lee. I'm glad you're here, buddy. For those of you watching on TV, we are on a bunch of other platforms, and that's how I'm able to chat with everybody. Thank you again to Austin Music TV for being here. Rick Emmett has an open C instrumental called Lickety Bit. That is awesome. I'll have to check that out. So, Jeff, I hope that took to you a little bit about tunings. I also know Michael O'Connor uses A tuning. There's one of my favorite songs ever by Michael O'Connor. I believe it's Getaway Car, if you guys are Michael O'Connor fans, which you should be. Go check out Getaway Car. I think that one might be an A tuning. And what do you think, Jeff? Did we answer that question all right? I hope so. Now, unfortunately, again, you gotta check me getting into new tunings. And Kelly asks the question appropriately. Do you find you have to change your strings more often when switching to different tunings a lot? Yes. I come from the Gurf Morlick school of I like to keep my strings on until they start unwinding. And I don't... Oh, thank you, Jeff. I'm glad you dug it. I hope that helps. Some cool tunings to mess around with for you. I like to keep strings on as long as I possibly can. I'm better at it than I used to be. It's great when I'm pretty much an online musician now, and can't leave Canada, can't work here, and can't get to the States, you know, because of what's all going on. So I don't have to change strings very often. I can leave them on here for a long time, and I don't like the sound of bright new strings. But yes, tuning them up and down and up and down and up and down. Oh, Shayna, the tune by Michael O'Connor I mentioned is called Getaway Car. It's one of my favorite Michael O songs. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And Shayna, I'm glad your record's doing well. Everybody go check out Shayna Sand's new record as well. It's pretty spectacular. I really dug it. Robert McCoy likes the sound of worn-in strings. Agreed. I'm the same way. I'm going to jump to Robert's question because he has a really cool question, and I'm going to grab my lap for this. My acoustic lap. Wahoo. Should leave this in the picture because everybody always likes to look at my Gibby. It's a pretty guitar. So, you're very welcome. This kind of leads from Jeff's question into Robert's. How do you decide what instrument to write on? Then how do you decide what tuning you're going to use for certain... And then, you know, what song keys do you play in G and open D? Because most of the time when I'm playing lap... Sounds a little bit like a dobro, right? But it's open G because I really like having those low strings. If I'm by myself and I don't have a bass player and I'm playing a solo gig, I want to be able to thump and play these low notes as if there's like a bass happening. I can do all my noodly stuff up on the top. Regardless whether I'm in open G or I'm in open D, I really like being able to thump the bass out. But how I choose the instrument for what I'm writing, I think the song kind of dictates we've talked a lot on these workshops, these 20 question Tuesdays that you're all hanging out at right now. It doesn't matter if it comes from lyrics first, for me. Lyrics first, a song idea, something I put into a voice memo, somebody else gives me an idea. I keep a notepad with just tons and tons of song ideas, so I'm ready. Michael O'Connor was talking one day, like 2 months ago, and said he gets up and he free writes a lot. I get up and I free write, and then I go back to it. Certain songs I know I'm going to need help on, like I'll start it myself, and then I'll get stuck. But I find that every different instrument that I play brings out a different character in the song. And that's part of the fun of it. The song that I was playing, there you go, Getaway Car, exactly. The song that I was playing when we started today, this new kind of, I wouldn't call it a protest song, but I'd call it an uplift song. I wrote that with Scrappy Judd, and it was really, really guitar-oriented because it has a bunch of changes, right? So this song, we needed our guitars. Don't stop now, keep moving your feet, keep on pushing, there's no retreat. This world is ready, and the time is tight. I won't retreat from a righteous fight. Okay, there's a lot of chords in there, right? You know, we're trying to do something there where we got a lot of chords, but as soon as I get it all down and I get Scrappy's guitar part, all I really wanted to do on that song was like... I wanted to get some like Sacred Steel type stuff happening, and it changed the vibe of the song. So if I play that song solo, I'm going to have to play it on guitar. If I ever get a chance to play that song with a band again, or for the first time, because I haven't, hey Oscar, besides the recording, I'm going to play it on slide. Sometimes sitting down at the piano to write a song, sometimes sitting down with a mandolin or a guitar, sometimes sitting down with no instrument at all. Then as far as like, I mean, I know this is going a roundabout of your question, which is like, how do you decide what instrument to write on, what tuning to use? At that point, it's really cool because this goes into your other question. What other song keys do you play in when you're in open G or in open D? It took me a while to find it, but if you listen to great dobro players, you can find a lot of stuff in the key of G. I'm sorry, that's in G tuning, but is not in G. So, first one right off the bat, B minor. Awesome for G tuning. You're playing lap and you leave those top strings open, boom, you've got a B minor chord that just sounds thick and awesome. So I'm putting my bar across the 4th fret, but I'm leaving the high 2 strings, the 1st and 2nd strings open. And because of those open strings, I get this minor chord. So when I'm playing a song of mine like Never Again, whoa, no, never again, the saints are the sinners and the devil's my friend, who I knew, who I met, whoa, no, never again. I get an E7 there. So in B minor, I've got a B minor on the 4th fret, play everything except for the high string and you get an E7, and then you put it right here and you got your 5 chord, you're kind of stuck just playing the whole bar. One key that's really good for G tuning is B minor. Another one for sure is E minor. A little bit harder to make just a chord and strum it. got to make sure you don't hit that high string or it becomes an E minor 7. But it's a great key to play in. I also really, really love playing an A in G tuning, because you get like a 7th out of it, you know. Robert, I hope you're here. Please chime in. Okay, here we go. Robert's here. I love E minor in open G, right? Very easy. So, but I also really, really love A, because you get like a sus4, you get a 9th, you get a 7th. There's all sorts of things you can find. Now, that's what I would suggest as far as finding other keys to play in. Gabriel Rhodes, you know, would notice after he first started playing with me, the great guitar player Gabriel Rhodes, he'd say, are we doing that in the G set or the D set? Because I would bookend my shows so I wouldn't have to tune as much. And I'd do one half of the show in G tuning, or sorry, a third of the show in G tuning, a third of the show on guitar, and a third in D. And that way I'd only have to retune my guitar once during the set. But then I had to start finding songs in other keys. So I didn't have to just sit, I'm either playing a song in G or I'm playing a song in D. One other example that I'll give you, and I love it, I keep giving you songs that are only available on Patreon. If I go to D tuning, a lot of people will know that Trouble Find Me is in D tuning. That's sharp. So you got a lot of chords in D, but I will say this. When you, I like playing an A a lot in D tuning, because it makes my 4 chord really, really big and meaty. I have a song I wrote with Scrappy, again, that's in D tuning, but it's in the key of A on the 7th fret is where most of it lands, and it's sort of like a Chuck Berry tune. Once again, not out yet, been writing a bunch. The only place you can find it's Patreon. Man, all I ever wanted was some honest work, a little bit of dignity, a boss who ain't a jerk, someone to come home to, someone to take out, a simple kind of pleasures, that's what I'm all about. Independent contractor, 18 wheels, got a little taste of how freedom feels. They grow everything that's green in California, yeah. Sometimes you gotta hustle to earn your pay, and I got a flat tire and a heavy load, supposed to haul it in 5 hours ago. Know someone helped a poor boy on the side of the road, he got a flat tire, a little further to go. You know, and it means that I just don't have to do an entire set of songs in D, and it forces me to play something interesting. I like, there's a series of lectures that my brother made me read in a book of Igor Stravinsky called Poetics of Music. And when he gave these lectures, he said, the more constraints I put on myself, the freer I am to move, which sounds totally ridiculous, right? But what he meant was, like, when he writes, oh, thanks, Kelly, I hope you check it out, on Patreon. What he said was, the more constraints I put on myself, the freer I am to move. And I really didn't understand that until I started messing around with alternate tunings, because there's only so many ways to make a minor chord on a lap slide. But it keeps you from falling into these little, what we used to call bag moves, you know, like something I would just play all the time, that same lick over and over again. It would force me to play a little bit less, think a little bit more about what I was playing. And so, Robert, I'm hoping that I'm kind of answering these questions a little bit. Questions being, how do you decide what instrument? I decide what instrument kind of like the song chooses me. I know that sounds a little corny, a little hippy-dippy. But as far as writing, any way I could get a song out, I'm happy to get it. I don't care where it comes from. A notepad, a voice memo, a guitar, I hummed something. You know, I didn't understand that till I was limited to lap slide. There you go. Yep, exactly. But, you know, picking the tuning, also get yourself a slide capo. Slide capos are crazy cool. They're so great, you know. I don't know if you know how to use these, or if you're into this sort of thing. They're mainly something that gets used on dobro, but they're also really good for other lap slides. So let's say I'm in D tuning. I put this thing between the third and fourth strings, and then I turn it like this, and then it just clamps down on the strings. So let's say I put it on the third fret, and it squeezes the strings this way, right? Well, all of a sudden now, with a little help from Mr. Tuner, well, this is pretty low action, this particular one that I have. I've run into that same thing. Robert says I'm going to have to make one low action for Weisenborn. This is a pretty low action Oahu here, and you can find different ones like the Beard Wave or Charlie's. Yeah, I think you might be able to do it. But here I am, and now all of a sudden, I'm in F. And what that also means is I get all those other keys with it. Remember how I said I was learning how to, or I was playing songs in A, but I was in open D tuning? Well, I don't just move the capo up and have those open keys. I also now could put the capo on the third fret and play in the key of C, which is not a super easy key to play on in other instruments, but you've got... Anyway, a capo is a handy thing, but just like a guitar capo, you don't just want to take G and just scoot it up the neck. You want to figure out how to play out of different positions. Play like you're playing in A minor, but the capo's on. You know, the fourth fret, and then you're in C sharp minor, etc., etc. Same thing with a capo for a slide or a lap slide or whatever. As a purist, I would say if I was playing like an electric lap slide, I wouldn't use a capo too much. Every once in a while. It's kind of like those people who put capos on mandolins. It's like, your neck is this big. You really, really want to capo it? Okay, well, that's fine. But don't have to be a purist unless you really want to. Hey, for a little bit of fun, let's see. Okay, so we got Kelly's first one, and we got Jeff's. Robert, let me know if you feel like that has answered your question fairly well. I like to hear from people. And wherever you're watching this, so glad to have you. Johannes asked what my favorite tuning joke is. And I'm going to have to use a word that I saw Stevie Wonder use, and it was really, really good. Instead of using a bad word, he used the word tish. So I think you can figure out what the word tish is. Here's my favorite tuning joke, and it comes from a guy named Robbie Gerso, who lives in Chicago. I've seen him for years play with the Flatlanders and Joe Ely. And Joe Ely likes to tell this joke at shows too. So Johannes, if you're listening, here's my favorite tuning joke to use during a show if I have a bunch of tuning to do. Robbie Gerso went to a clinic. You're very welcome. Hi, Reagan. Robbie Gerso went to a clinic where the masterful of classical guitar, Andres Segovia, and the genius of the electric guitar, Les Paul, were playing together in a clinic. One would play a song, then another would play a song. And at the end of this incredible concert, there was a question and answer session. And somebody raised their hand from the back, and they said, "Mr. Les Paul, I have a question for you, sir." And Les Paul has always been known for being a little bit on the crotchety side, rest his soul. Crotchety is probably a good word for it. Cantankerous. So the young man said, "Mr. Les Paul, I noticed that you tuned your guitar at the beginning of the show, and you tuned before every song, and you tuned the guitar. Sometimes you'd even stop in the middle of a song, and you would tune during the song." He said, "I noticed that Mr. Segovia over here only tuned once at the beginning of the show, and that's the only time he ever tuned." And Les Paul looked at the young man and he said, "Well, obviously, Mr. Segovia over here doesn't give a tish." So there you go. That's my favorite tuning joke. But you can insert the real word that he used. I hope you liked it. If I had a wah-wah right now, I'd go womp, 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 womp. But he actually, that was from a show, supposedly, that Robbie Gerso saw. And that is my favorite tuning joke. Maybe we'll have a section every week where I tell my favorite on-stage banter joke. They will almost always be that long. So, Johannes, I hope you enjoyed it. What makes a good guitar a great guitar? I asked because I want to say something. It's an interesting question. Let's see, we got Johannes, okay, good, you got it. Okay, good. Dale, I'm going to write yours down because I do think we're going to have time for one or two more questions. Good guitar. What makes a good guitar a great guitar? And like I said, everybody, thank you all for being here, and don't forget this right here. Big help. Thanks a bunch. Really, really grateful to my followers on Patreon. New Patreon songs come out tomorrow. That one I was playing earlier, and a cover song by Little Steven. Came out of nowhere, but it's a cool one. Dale's question: what makes a good guitar a great guitar? I ask because when I read a list of all-time iconic guitars, I wonder why they stood out. I'm going to get to your question. I still have Steve. Steve, are you still here, buddy? Guitar, great guitar. When I see a list. Okay. Steve's question: what keeps you motivated to practice on a bad day? And Steve, I'm sending you some good vibes right now because I think you may need them. And there's nothing that, if I'm having a tough day, if I can actually get away and play guitar, that's when I remember that it's playing. I had a voice teacher in high school that would remind me that it's play. You're playing music. And just to sit in a corner and strum a guitar and not have to do it for work, not have to do it for a song that I need to record, not because of any other reason, for me, became a bit of a luxury. And it was very, very rare until this pandemic happened that I was able, and I hate thinking about things that are good things to come out of it and stuff, and it seems a little selfish to talk about, but in being locked down, I could pick up a guitar for fun. and I forgot how therapeutic it was. So as far as like practicing and what keeps me motivated to practice when I'm having a bad day, um, I've always been a child about playing music. It's supposed to be play, it's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to make you feel better, or you get into it and you just play sad songs because you just want to sit and play sad songs and strum. Every type of practice helps. Not just playing scales, not just learning vocabulary on your instrument, but every time you sit down to play, that's making you better. I don't care what you're working on. I don't care if you're strumming when you're watching TV, and people will tell me that's a horrible thing to say. But I don't see any problem if you've got a guitar next to your couch, if you pick it up and you play it, you know. They really are your friends, and they really can make you feel better in those tough times. For me to have the luxury of not just playing, you know, it's just it, it makes me feel better, and it makes me feel better whether I'm playing a sad song or a hard song. It probably doesn't make me feel better to sit down and practice scales, or to learn, a new voicing for a chord. But it will make me feel better if I play something that makes me feel good, or even something that makes me feel sad. In a way, it's cathartic. So to keep motivated to practice on a bad day, I would remember that all practice is good practice. If I work on a bluegrass tune, it's going to help me play rock and roll some other day. If I work on singing something, it's going to help me with playing solos that aren't so notey. Any playing is good playing. So with that in mind, and I don't always practice what I preach, but I think that I would be almost more motivated to play on a bad day, and know that I have to do it, because when I put my guitar down for too long, every year my wife and I will be driving, from Canada to Texas, or from Texas to Canada, and I literally won't play for 5 days. Well, 5 days, even if I've played since I was 10 years old, 5 days is a long time for me to go without playing guitar. It's sometimes a welcome break for my wrists, but I try to just keep it handy, and it'll be good to you, Steve, I think. But that's what keeps me motivated. We have a couple of comments that have to do with what we're talking about right here. So for those of you on Austin Music TV, thanks for tuning in. And I've got comments, on the other platforms that we're checking out. Larry King says, I'm a classroom teacher and I keep a uke in my room. You can't be stressed out while playing a ukulele. I love that comment, and I joke with my wife sometimes about how you can't play a sad song on the banjo. I think that was a Steve Martin joke from the 70s or 80s, like before my time, even a little bit, 70s part. But it is true, like just keeping something handy is key. I love guitar stands, and I love wall hangers for guitars, and we've had to, it's something that my wife has had to come to terms with. It's just like the easiest thing, because otherwise I'm just pulling out cases all the time. She understands that now they're decorations as well, because I want to use them. Keeping a guitar out is a really, really good key thing to do, and all practice is good practice. Kelly says, if I'm having a bad day, I like to practice a song I can play pretty well. Gives me sort of an instant little win. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Kelly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If you love to play Redemption Song by Bob Marley and you're having a bad day, play it, and play it really, really, really well. Try to play it without stopping your fingers. Try to play it from beginning to end. Try to play it where you're really, really in the zone. That counts as practice, just as much as sitting there with a metronome and playing, to try and get, dexterity or something like that. If you don't play for one day, you know it. If you don't play for 5 days, everybody knows it. Who said that, Lee? Is that Clapton? That sounds like a Clapton thing to say. Or Neil Young. I know you're a big Neil Young fan. And with that in mind, keep in mind I do Zoom lessons, and if you're interested, just message me. Um, Feel free to talk to me about that. Now that I'm home and an online musician for a while, I'm doing that. I'm also doing a lot of home recordings, which has been super, super, super fun. Playing on people's albums from right here. It's been a blast. I got a great Pro Tools setup, and I also use Logic for a lot of stuff. Keep that in mind if anybody wants something a little bit more private. Ted asked, what's your favorite rock opera? Oh, Bruton said that. Cool. Turner Stephen Bruton, everybody. There's somebody to look up the music of. Ted asked what my favorite rock opera is. I gotta say, none. I don't know. I've never seen Tommy all the way through. I think it's a cool idea. I don't know much about rock operas. There's a really, really great poet named Michael Anania. Michael Anania. And Michael Anania has been bugging me. We've been talking for a while about writing a blues opera because there isn't one. And I mean, it's like there's definitely things like Porgy and Bess. There's a lot of stuff. The Cole Porter stuff is the closest. But he wanted to. Now this is a guy who's a poet, like a real poet. And he started coming to my shows and talking to me, and he was like, "Yeah, it's interesting, you know." He's like, "It's nice to know that somebody out there is writing songs who can count higher than 7." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, you write in interesting things. You write in 7s, you write in 9s." He's like, "Everybody writes in these, 4s and 6s, and they don't write, And I said, "Cool. I never really thought about it. I don't write with those things in mind." So Michael and I started hanging out, and he says he likes to go, and he's, like I said, he's a poet by trade, and when he's not touring around and doing book tours and things like that, or speaking his poetry at places, reading it, he likes to go watch jazz. And he was talking to the great drummer Brandon Temple, and he said, "Yeah, I like to go to jazz because I don't like crowds," which is really ironic and funny, because he likes to go to clubs where there's not a lot of people as well. So he got really into jazz. I don't really have a favorite rock opera, but Michael Anania and I have been, the poet, have been tossing around the idea. And we wrote one song together that was kind of a blues song that had a particular story from not Beggar's Banquet, but the Beggar's Opera. And we were trying to kind of make that work with a blues tune. And it was pretty cool. But now we're going to be talking about stuff. Yeah, a blues album, but an opera. And there's characters and things like that. But for now, we're going to put some music to his poetry, which I think is a really, really cool challenge that I'm excited about, for sure. Super excited about. So Ted, maybe you need to tell me. I know that Michael O'Connor is a huge fan of that thing called Hedwig and the Angry Itch. I still haven't seen that, but I hear it's awesome. I hear that is a really, really, really cool thing. That may be a musical, maybe a rock opera. I don't know. Also, my late great friend Lewis Myers, who passed away a few years ago, he took the band, a bluegrass band, from what's that town? Kansas City. And they did the entire rock opera Tommy with bluegrass instruments. And it was huge because everybody wanted to go out. And it was brilliant. And it was all Lewis's idea. He wanted to do it for years. And he finally found the right band to do it. And he put them out on the road. Hedwig and the Angry Itch. There you go. Oh, it's a musical. I can't wait to check that out. Michael says it's great. Back to Tommy and the rock opera with bluegrass instruments. They recorded it. And the Hillbenders. And they recorded the rock opera and made it into something really, really great. So, what would you call "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou"? That's interesting because those who don't know, I was actually in the studio and got to watch them record a little bit there. I was invited. I wouldn't call that a rock opera, but that has some, the music is definitely a huge part of it. I was very lucky to be in Nashville when they were recording that, and I got to watch a bunch of that recorded at the Sound Emporium. I watched them do Man of Constant Sorrow in one take with no discussion of who was going to play what solo where. It was incredible. They just went in and played it. Oof. Sure learned a lot that day. We got one more question. I'm going to try and get to it before we are off. Thank you again, Austin Music TV. And check out all their other shows here on this channel. And thank you again for the help. Because thank you. And check out the Patreon page. 2112 by Rush. Sure, that's a concept album. You might call that a rock opera. I still don't have a favorite, though, Ted. That's the problem. I don't really know one well enough to go, oh, that's the one I really, really love. I'll think about it when we're off. Dale had the last question. I think I've gotten everybody's question today, which we don't always get to. It's great. Again, I'm thinking about maybe having a guest next week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. But before we get off, Dale says, what makes a good guitar a good guitar? When I see a list of all of the great guitars, I wonder, what makes it? It's everything is just in your hands and you make it. It's like when a guitar is worth $100,000, it's perceived value. We had a guitar that was an original Flying V that was sold at a guitar studio that I worked at in Ann Arbor, Herb David's, and they sold it they held out at $60,000, they held out at $70,000, and I think they sold it for $77,000 for one guitar. No guitar sounds like $77,000. No offense to any lawyers or dentists or anybody who makes good money, but that's a lawyer's guitar. It is. It's somebody who's got some money who wants something cool. But a good guitar can be a piece of junk if you love it. I have an old Yamaha that I've had for 30 years, playing and playing and playing and playing it and having it as the guitar out. It became incredible. I have fancy guitars and cheap guitars, most of them cheap. And what really makes a great guitar is how it speaks to you. Don't be fooled by lacquer. Don't be fooled by we have the best whatever. The only company that I really know, there's certain companies that make great guitars and stuff that have whatever, but I probably shouldn't do that because it might come off as a call to action. You can't do that on this particular television thing. But I would say, workmanship makes a difference when you've got an acoustic guitar. But then Sears made great guitars for years. This particular guitar that I found that's just right for me is a 1940s Oahu student model. It was just a student model back then, and it's just a square neck, and it really, really works for what I do. So you can find them online for a few $100. Who knew? And I put it right next to a Martin or a Gibson, put the same pickup in it, run it through the exact same stuff into the board. No one knows. So Dale, I would say what makes a good guitar, how it feels in your hand and how it sounds. Also what'll happen is, I remember when the White Stripes first came out. Oh, we're about to go offline. So thank you to everybody at Austin Music TV, and I'll just continue this online as we go. Thank you, Austin Music TV. We appreciate you so very, very, very much, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to do this. But as we're heading off, boom. Yeah, Trigger's a perfect example, right? Thank you, everybody. We're probably offline now on Austin Music TV, but we can continue this just for a minute. Um, okay, Dale. So you felt like you got a good answer to that question, Dale? You feeling okay about it? I hope so. We're welcome to stay on for a few more minutes if anybody has some more questions. Um, and I will say now, now that we are officially offline, I can say thank you so much, everybody, for the tips and for supporting me on Patreon.com. Got new songs coming out tomorrow, and I really, really want everybody to hear them. The opportunity to create music every single month and put it out and not have to wait until I have $30,000 to make a record is just the best. And the entry level is $5 and you get all the music. I think I've got 26 tunes on there right now. So please go check me out there. Let's go ahead and thank Kelly for the great question, Jeff for the great question, Steve, Robert, Ted, and Dale and Johannes for the joke. Hit me with some emojis. Hit me with some likes. Hit me with some shares. Make sure you go to Spotify and check out my music there. Make sure you hit follow and then put it on repeat when you go to sleep tonight. I can't thank you all enough. And we'll call it a day. And next week, hopefully, we will have... keep watching online and I'll let you know. Tonight, I'm going to be on with the Resentments. Let's see, on Facebook on Happy Hour Concerts. So if anybody would like to check that out, please do. I think you'll dig it. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thanks for the tips. Thank you so much. All right, take care.